Ferrari makes an unexpected move that could change everything this season. Leclerc and Hamilton make small changes to their power units in Saudi Arabia, and the theories keep coming. Are they hiding a problem? Or is this the masterstroke to dominate? Ferrari shook up the paddock at the 2025 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix with a decision that left everyone baffled. In the middle of Friday practice, while the teams were finishing fine-tuning their cars, the Scuderia opted to change vital components of the power units of its two-star drivers, Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc. It wasn't a simple tweak. It was an almost complete overhaul of the propulsion system. The internal combustion engine, the turbocharger, the MGU-H, and the MGU-K were all replaced. These four elements constitute the core of the modern hybrid power unit in Formula One. But the most striking thing is that Ferrari made this decision in only the fifth race of the calendar. Strategically, it's extremely early to resort to new parts, considering that only a limited number of these components are allowed during the season without penalties. The electronic control unit and the energy storage system, interestingly, were not modified. This indicates that the change was not motivated by an electronic failure or a total systemic problem. Everything indicates that Ferrari is looking for an immediate additional push, possibly because they identified performance limitations in the first races or because they are introducing a new, more powerful engine specification, ready to be tested in real-world racing conditions. The choice of the Jeddah circuit was not accidental. This high-speed street layout with long straights and intense braking favors cars with good top speed and energy recovery. Ferrari, aware of the specific demands of the circuit, reportedly opted to maximize power in this setting, even at the cost of compromising future engine management strategies. Furthermore, this move coincides with the introduction of new aerodynamic elements to the car, such as a low-downforce rear wing specially designed for this circuit. This suggests a complete synergy between the engine and aerodynamics. It's not just about gaining horsepower, but about optimizing the car's overall efficiency. Ferrari has made a big bet. Changing small parts of the power unit at this point is a high-risk move, which could mean a historic comeback or a string of season-ending penalties. The only thing that's certain is that it wasn't an improvised decision. This move has multiple layers, each of which suggests something big is brewing in Maranello. Despite all this, the results aren't following suit. There are doubts in the garage. There are continuous adjustments at every race. And, above all, there is enormous pressure to prove that all this effort is worth it. Hamilton's arrival was a coup. But if the car isn't up to scratch, no driver, not even a 7-time champion, can compensate for a poor technical foundation. So, is the SF25 a success or a failure? On a conceptual level and in terms of technical ambition, the project is a step forward. Ferrari is breaking new ground, exploring limits, and adopting solutions it previously avoided. But at a competitive level, the leap that transforms theory into consistent victories is still lacking. The potential is there. The execution is not yet. This leaves the SF25 in a gray area. It's a car that promises but has yet to deliver. And in Formula One, promises don't win championships. Only results do. Ferrari's decision to almost completely change the power units of its two main drivers in the fifth race of the season isn't simply a technical update. It's a high-risk strategic gamble. And as with any gamble of this magnitude, the consequences can be as impactful as they are unpredictable. Under current Formula One regulations, each driver has a limited number of components they can use throughout the year without incurring penalties. This includes the combustion engine, turbocharger, MGU-H, MGU-K, battery, control electronics, and energy storage system. Using a fourth unit of any of these components generally results in a grid penalty. Therefore, making such a profound change so early in the championship could seriously compromise the team's strategic flexibility in the second half of the season. This type of maneuver is usually reserved for critical moments, when a team is on the verge of technical collapse or when there is absolute certainty that the new package represents such a quantum leap forward that it justifies the risk. The fact that Ferrari is doing this in round 5 leaves several interpretations open. It could mean they've detected a fundamental flaw in the initial units, or that the new engine is so superior that sacrificing a race now is more valuable than risking continuity with a limited unit. But there's another aspect that further complicates the move: timing. This change was made in the middle of a race weekend, after Friday practice. In other words, the drivers and engineers had to adapt to a completely different unit without the benefit of having thoroughly tested it on track. Every engine has unique behavior. Power delivery, energy recovery, temperatures, vibrations. These are variables that directly affect handling and driver confidence. Changing this just hours before qualifying is like rolling the dice on a multimillion-dollar table. Lewis Hamilton, who arrived at Ferrari with the expectation of leading a new winning streak, finished practice in 13th place. He himself stated that his only goal was to qualify within the top 10. That's not the mentality of a title contender. It's that of someone trying to survive in a technical context they haven't yet mastered. And that raises an alarm that Ferrari can't ignore. Another obvious risk is wear and tear. If these new components aren't significantly more reliable than the previous ones, the team could find itself in a critical situation later in the season. There would no longer be room for changes without penalty. Any future failure would have direct consequences on the grid. This would put additional pressure on each race, forcing conservative decisions or technical overstress, just when operational freedom is most needed. Finally, there is the risk that this update won't deliver what it promises. If Ferrari has spent one of its most valuable ammunition to achieve marginal or even zero performance, the blow won't just be technical, it will be psychological. Losing confidence in upgrades is one of the worst scenarios a team can face in a long and competitive season. It affects morale, the approach to development, and the relationship between drivers and engineers. In short, this move can be seen as a bold move by a team willing to do anything to get back to the top, or as a desperate maneuver by a team that can't quite find its way. The only thing that's clear is that the margin for error has been drastically reduced. And in modern Formula One, when you play at the limit, the price of failure can be devastating. While the spotlight is on engine changes and the mixed results of the first few races, there's one element that has gone more unnoticed, but that may be the key to everything: the total synchronization between the aerodynamic and mechanical updates that Ferrari is implementing. The first thing to understand is that Ferrari isn't making isolated changes. The replacement of small parts in the power unit in Saudi Arabia wasn't an improvised act, nor is it a simple reaction to a poor qualifying session. It's part of a much broader and more ambitious strategy. In parallel with the new engine, Ferrari introduced a low-downforce rear wing specially developed for this circuit, one of the fastest on the calendar, in Jeddah, as well as a new aerodynamic beam to maximize efficiency on the straights. The logic behind these changes is clear. Ferrari is designing a car that is perfectly adapted to the individual demands of each circuit. They are no longer looking for a generic solution or a good all-rounder. They are creating specific setups for each key track. In the case of Jeddah, that means maximizing top speed without losing stability in fast corners. But what is most telling is that all this comes on the heels of a major upgrade to the floor of the car that debuted at the Bahrain Grand Prix. This upgrade significantly increased the SF25's operating efficiency, extending its operating window by 30%. In simple terms, the car can now perform better under more conditions, which was previously one of its structural weaknesses. This synergy between aerodynamics and mechanics is no coincidence. It's a sign of a meticulous plan. Ferrari isn't simply reacting to results. It's executing a clear roadmap. And in that context, the Saudi Arabian GP could be the first visible chapter of a project that has been brewing since pre-season. The big question is whether these moves are designed to dominate in 2025 or if they are, in fact, part of a test run under real-life race conditions for 2026. Because there's something few are saying out loud. The new engine Ferrari has fitted might not just be an evolution of the previous one, but a preliminary version of the concept for the new technical regulations for hybrid units that come into effect next year. If that's true, then Ferrari would be gaining a double advantage. On the one hand, it would improve its immediate performance. On the other, it would accelerate its development curve toward the new regulations. This opens the door to a possibility that, until recently, seemed remote. Ferrari could be on the verge of striking a blow. Not just in terms of sporadic victories, but in what truly matters, changing the course of their destiny as a team. For that to happen, they need more than just a fast car. They need consistency. They need the pieces to fit, the drivers to trust the team, and strategic decisions to be executed flawlessly. But above all, they need to transform this burst of technical potential into points, podiums, and victories. Only then can it be confirmed that what's happening isn't just an evolution. It's a quiet revolution. And if this move pays off, they won't just be getting closer to the championship. They could regain something they lost years ago, the absolute respect of the paddock. When Ferrari signed Lewis Hamilton, the move was interpreted as a declaration of war on the status quo of Formula One. It wasn't just a gamble on the talent of a 7-time world champion. It was a direct message. Ferrari wants to be champion again, and they want to do it now. But that signing also triggered latent tensions that are now beginning to surface within the team, race after race. The signs are there. In Jeddah, Hamilton finished Friday practice in 13th place. In subsequent statements, his tone was more defensive than hopeful. He said his only goal was to finish in the top 10 in the standings. For a driver of his caliber, accustomed to fighting for pole positions, that statement isn't just a technical complaint. It's a symptom of frustration, an implicit warning that things aren't working out as he expected. Charles Leclerc, for his part, has made no secret of his desire to have a car that matches his ambitions. After the Japanese Grand Prix, he made it clear that urgent improvements were needed to close the gap with McLaren, Red Bull, and Mercedes. That statement, though diplomatic, exposes an uncomfortable truth. The two drivers are demanding changes. They are pushing the team in different directions. And that, in any team, is fertile ground for conflict. It's worth remembering that Leclerc has spent years building his place within Ferrari. He's the face of the project since Sebastian Vettel's departure. He's the driver who has endured ups and downs, strategic errors, and seasons lacking in rhythm. His emotional connection to the Scuderia is deep, as is his sense of belonging. But now, that privileged space is shared with a living legend like Hamilton, who has arrived with his own team, his own communication style, and, above all, his political clout within the paddock. This duality can enrich a technical project, but it can also fracture it. If the results aren't forthcoming, internal comparisons intensify. Engineers begin to divide efforts. The press speculates. And the drivers, although diplomatic in front of the microphones, distance themselves in briefings and on the track. So far, there have been no cross statements. There have been no public clashes. But the tense technical environment and the pressure for results are accelerating the wear and tear. And all this is happening while Ferrari is trying to execute its most ambitious development in recent years. In other words, they're innovating while trying to survive a potential internal storm. An open war between drivers isn't inevitable. But if the car's performance continues to be inconsistent and strategies don't align, the risk is real. Because at Ferrari, it's not just about competing against rivals. It's about competing for internal leadership, for the trust of the front line, for who will be the true face of the prancing horse's rebirth. What's happening at Ferrari isn't just a series of technical updates. It's a turning point. The decision to introduce new power units, along with specific aerodynamic changes and an almost complete redesign of the car, reveals an urgency that goes far beyond the sporting aspect. It speaks of identity, of pride, of the need to regain a place that was snatched away from them years ago. Ferrari is tired of being the eternal promise, of starting each season as the headline favorite and ending it as the perennial contender. The signing of Hamilton, the radical redesign of the SF25, and the aggressive technical plan are signs that the team has decided to abandon caution and bet everything in one direction, winning again. But that ambition comes at a cost. Technical risks, possible sanctions, internal tensions, huge expectations. In a Formula One that doesn't forgive mistakes, where every thousandth of a second and every decision counts, Ferrari is playing to the limit. It holds nothing back. And when that happens, the margin between success and disaster is minimal. The upcoming races won't just be a test of the SF25's performance. They will be a test of character for the entire team. For its engineers, who must prove that this concept works under pressure. For its strategists, who will have to maneuver intelligently with every decision. And above all, for its drivers, who now represent much more than just a couple of names on the grid. They represent two philosophies, two ways of understanding racing, and two egos that inevitably want to be the center of attention. The question that remains is not whether Ferrari has improved. It clearly has. The real question is whether this project has what it takes to sustain itself over time, to survive the pressure, the mistakes, the rivals, and to ultimately become a champion team. If they succeed, it won't be by chance. It will be because they decided to take a chance when no one else dared. And because they understood that in modern Formula One, true power isn't just having the fastest car. It's having the courage to go flat out, even when everyone else is hesitant.